Hey third graders, welcome to Module 5, Lesson 7. And actually it's Lesson 7 out of 30 lessons, so you're at 7/30ths of the way through Module 5. Today we're going to identify and represent shaded and non-shaded parts of one whole as fractions. A little review because there still seems to be some confusion. Remember, the reason that we have fraction numbers is because we need to have a way to express when we have less than one whole. So how do you write numbers less than one whole? You use a fraction number. So fractions are numbers, we just write them different ways. Remember how we put numbers at certain parts of the place value chart to mean different things? Like if you put the 2 in the hundreds place, you don't have 2, you have 200. Well, it's the same thing with a fraction. Wherever you put the number means something different. So if the number goes in the, let's go ahead and start with the denominator. So if the number goes in the bottom, remember that it means how many equal parts the item is divided into. And then our numerator is how many parts we have. So today we're going to be looking at this numerator especially because we're going to be looking at the shaded and the unshaded. So it just depends on which part of the shape that we're talking about. On your notes, write what part of the cup is full of water. All right, you guys should have said that it was 1/2 full of water because the cup is divided into 2 equal pieces and one of those pieces is filled with water. Could we also write a fraction for the part that's not filled with water? What do you guys think? Write it on your notes, press pause and press play when you're done. Yeah, so you guys should have put that it's 1/2 empty. So there's 1/2 of the cup that's not full with water. So today we're going to be looking at the parts that are shaded and the parts that are not shaded, or the parts that are full, the parts that are empty. So it's good to look at the whole as a whole. We're going to use Star Wars today to help us with our fraction parts for the first part of the video. Go ahead and draw this triangle on your notes. Write the fraction for the shaded part and write the fraction number that describes the unshaded part. Go ahead and press pause and press play when you're done. All right, so for the shaded part, you should have noticed that there's 2 pieces total that the shape has been divided into. So I know that my denominator for my shaded part is going to be 2. My shaded in part, I have 1 out of 2. So remember, we can read it as 1 out of 2. And my unshaded, I have 2 parts total still for my denominator, and I only have 1 part that's unshaded. So again, I have 1 out of 2 that's unshaded. Let's go ahead and do another one. Go ahead and copy this on your notes. Write the shaded and the unshaded. Press pause and press play when you're done. All right, let's take a look. So with your square here, you should have noticed that it's divided into 4 pieces. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So our denominator is going to be 4. Because remember, that's what the denominator means. How many pieces is it divided up into? Shaded and unshaded. Now our numerator is where we look at what's colored in and what's not. So I see that there's 1 out of 4 pieces shaded in. For unshaded, I noticed that 3 of them are unshaded, but I still have 4 parts total shaded and unshaded. So 3/4 are unshaded. Let's do our last one. Go ahead and write this on your notes. Press pause and press play when you're done. All right, you guys should have noticed that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or you could have counted it 4, 8, or 2, 4, 6, 8. You should have noticed that these are divided into 8s. There's 8 total pieces. Still, I only have 1 out of 8 of those pieces shaded in, so 1/8 is shaded. And unshaded, 7 of them are not shaded. And I still have 8 total shaded and unshaded. So 7/8 are not shaded. I hope you're noticing that the denominator stays the same because it's talking about the same shape cut up into the same amount of pieces. The numerator is what changes because the numerator tells us which pieces we're talking about. Here we're talking about the shaded. Here we're talking about the unshaded. Please write this on your notes. Figure it out, press pause, and press play when you're done. It says how many eighths are in one whole. All right, so on your notes, you should have drawn your rectangle and then divided it into 8 equal pieces because it's eighths. If you had done fourths and then drawn a line this way to make eighths, that would also work. So here I have eighths, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And how many eighths do I have in one whole? Well, I just counted that there were 8 eighths in one whole. So on your notes, go ahead and write 8 eighths equals 1. So if we had all 8 pieces, we would have one whole candy bar. Go ahead and do that again for B, but this time, how many fourths are in one whole? Go ahead and do that, press pause and press play when you're done. All right, let's see. So how many fourths are in one whole? You should have divided this up into fourths. And just as a side note, please make sure that you're writing like A and B next to your work so that it's labeled so that when I check your homework tomorrow, I know which problem is which. Okay, so how many fourths are in one whole? So you should have divided it into fourths, so 4 equal pieces. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 fourths in one whole. So there's 4 equal pieces and 4 of them this time are unshaded. All right, please do the same thing for C. Now, how many thirds are in one whole? Do you guys see a pattern? Do you know what the answer is before we even draw it? So you're probably noticing that if we have all of the pieces, we have the numerator matching the denominator because we have all of the pieces that we've divided it up into. So go ahead and do the thirds, press pause and press play when you're done. All right, you probably noticed that without even drawing it, we would have 3 thirds because if we divide it up into 3 pieces and we have all of those pieces, we have the one whole. Please turn your paper over and write final problem at the top of it, or if wherever you're at, draw a line and then write final problem underneath it. So this is just going to be an example. You don't need to write this one on your notes. So we're going to be drawing rectangles and doing brackets to show which part is which fraction number. If you can't do the fancy brackets, remember you can do the bracket that looks like a half rectangle with a little line pointing to your fraction. So looking at this rectangle here, I noticed that there's 2 equal parts that it's divided up into, and the shaded is 1 out of 2, or 1/2. So my unshaded, I still have 2 equal pieces, and one of them is unshaded. So on your final problem now, please write A and B and the rectangles next to it, and write which part of the whole each shaded and unshaded portion is. All right, go ahead and do that, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Good night. Dun, 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 dun.